to this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
All right, you are still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Well, today, as we have earlier informed you, we are looking at experience that people have shared when it comes to the issue of coronavirus. Those of us who have had, who are victims of coronavirus and who have also survived that very, very dangerous virus. Now, before we start the conversation, let's take a backgrounder put together by Abdul Malik Adio.
For some, the coronavirus is publicly underplayed, while for others, its existence is highly questioned. Experts say the evolving situation of the highly contagious infection is seemingly not abating, with increase of over 37,000 confirmed cases and over 800 deaths. Aside health workers and other Nigerians, the virus has left in its wake prominent casualties who could hardly get the burial right they would have been accorded in normal times. But many Nigerians still show reservations that COVID-19 death victims, aside from the few public figures, have remained largely unannounced beyond the daily statistics on the NCDC dashboard. Despite proof of recovery seen in daily patterns of cases reported by NCDC, experts say the grip of the disease leaves carriers at very low ebb, evident in the tally of shared experience of personalities of those who have recovered and the death toll to convince doubters about the reality of the disease. Experts say stigmatization of affected persons must be condemned, adding that it is better to encourage people to be transparent about situation rather than injurious secrecy to avoid stigma. However, beyond numbers on the NCDC dashboard, for families of the deceased, life as it were will never be the same. A crude reality that has been a mix of tears and unforgettable memories of their loved ones. But for some, it's a triumph over evil, as today we focus on COVID-19 and those compelling stories of victory.
All right, thank you very much, Abdul Malik Adio, for that background. Joining us here at the studios, hale and healthy gentlemen now, to discuss this issue. We'd like to welcome one of our regular guests in the course of our focus on coronavirus since it broke in the country in February. Dr. Mohammed Kawu, Acting Secretary of the Health and Human Services Secretariat of the Federal Capital Territory. Dr. Kawu, congratulations and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
Also here with us in the studios is Abdul Rahman Balogun, is Head Media and Public Relations and Protocol Unit of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. Mr. Balogun, congratulations and delighted to have you with us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, and from Sabah on Skype is Charles Aniago, Commissioner for Information, Delta State. It's a pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria, Charles.
Thank you very much, Korean, and good morning, and thanks for having me.
And finally, from Infectious Disease Unit, University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, we have Dr. Vivian Kwahe, who is in charge of that unit. She's also joining us via Skype. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria this morning.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right, Dr. Vivian Kware, thanks. We're having you again on the program. I'm sure that our engineers will advise you to have more light on your face so that the silhouette effect is taken care of. Let's begin this conversation excuse me, with our guest right here in the studios, Dr. Mohammed Kawu. What happened?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Nigerians. Precisely around 23rd of June, I had malaria-like symptoms. And initially, I started treating malaria. And I quickly, being a frontline health worker, and I used to do my regular testing. So while treating malaria, I did my COVID-19 test. And behold, when the result came out, I was positive. And interestingly, and unfortunately, some of my family members were also tested, and some of them were positive. So I had some symptoms, and some of them also had symptoms, so we had to be taken to the treatment center, one of them in the FCT. We got treated, and thank God, by 2 weeks later, we all got better, and the results turned out to be negative. So we were discharged. So we thank God for that, and I want to appreciate Nigerians that have prayed for us and called to empathize with us. And I also want to thank Nigerians, especially those VIPs that announce their status, because our biggest issue in this fight, or one of our issues, is stigma. People don't want to come out and test because they don't want to be, they don't want people to know or say they have COVID-19. But if you look at the means of transmission of the disease, there is nothing that will lead to stigma. I mean, it's droplet infection, respiratory. There is nothing sexual or anything negative that contributes to the transmission of disease. So why should somebody be concerned about stigma? But still, people have stigma, I can tell you.
All right, we're going to come to that, in the course of the discussion, because it's one aspect of it that, does not all go well, for a nation, like Nigeria, stigmatizing people who have coronavirus, which is an international virus, if you like. From here, let's go to Charles Aniago, Commissioner for Information Data. Charles, we had you on Good Morning Nigeria, and the topic of that day was how your state, is gearing up towards the fight against the virus. You read out most of the plans being put in place by your governor, to ensure that your state is, very, prepared to fight the virus. But then, what we heard again about you a couple of days after that was that you caught the virus. Let us also share your experience of what really happened, because you are in the forefront of sensitizing, Deltans on how to, protect themselves. And all of a sudden, you fell victim. Let us share in that.
Thank you very much. It's very correct that to a very large extent, actually one of those in the forefront of sensitization in my state, and letting people know the necessary protocols to observe with a view to preventing them from contracting the virus. But of course, the state where we are now in the country is that it has gone into community transmission. So it's no longer where you begin to ask somebody, did you travel to America, or did you travel to Lagos or Abuja? At the beginning, you had it more in Abuja and Lagos. And so when somebody comes in, or maybe you find out that somebody has the virus, you now begin to find out his travel history. But we have gotten to a level now where travel history is no longer important, because at the community level, even right there in your homes, they are there. And it just happened that the number of persons are also asymptomatic. And so you may even be thinking that somebody is quite healthy, like I was. In my own case, I had gone to do the test because I wanted to also demystify the thinking in certain quarters that it's a death sentence and people were running away. I wanted to do the test, and then so that I can come out and say, look, I have done the test, I am negative, and they didn't do anything. But somehow, after going for the test, less than 24 hours, I discovered that I lost my taste, sorry, sense of smell. And I said, like, there's a problem. And then 24 hours after the result came out, and it came out positive. And all I did do was to also approach the medical personnel who I believe understand what to do and how to go about it, rather than relying on the social media and the different medication that is being posted here and there. And I was properly guided. And at the end of the day, by the grace of God, because somehow I have the facility to self-isolate, and so I was asked to isolate in my house and not to be moving up and down, while the medical personnel provided the drugs and the medication and constantly call to check how I'm doing. And then sometimes they will also send a practitioner, in this case a consultant, to check how I'm doing with some questions. And I say, I'm doing fine. And by the grace of God, after about 16 days, I went back for another test, and it turned out negative. But I can tell you, COVID-19 is not malaria. It's a different thing entirely.
All right, Charles, thank you very much. We'll come back to you, and then we'll get to learn more about those differences from both yourself and Dr. Kawu here with us in the studios. Let's bring in now Abdul Rahman Balogun of the Diaspora Commission. In your case, what was it?
Well, thank you very much. It started like malaria too. I noticed I was a little bit very weak. So I approached a doctor who recommended some drugs for me. So for a whole week, I excused myself from work. So I used the drug, but no improvement. I was becoming very weak. I lost my appetite for food, so I couldn't eat anything. So after that 1 week, I just called a friend that, please, just take me to National Hospital. So on getting to National Hospital, after they just, I met the doctor, after they diagnosed me, he said, no, by that time I was already having difficulty in breathing. So they said, we are going to put you on admission. So that night I was put on admission, and then from that night I was on oxygen till maybe 3 or 4 days before I was discharged. And I think 2 days after they came, did the COVID-19 test on me. Nobody told me anything. They just moved me from the very first room to another room that were just two. And then they commenced treatment. Then the next day, they invited me to do X-ray. So when they did the X-ray, I was asking the doctor, what's the problem? He said they discovered that I had acute pneumonia. That was what affected me. So they started the treatment, and 2 days before I was discharged, the COVID-19 people came again, did some tests, and then the day that the doctor just called me, congratulations, you are negative. You can now go. I said, just like that? I've been away from work and nothing to even show. What is, can you just give me some paper? They said, you can just go. This is your PIN if you still want to. So I want to use this opportunity to just thank all the caregivers. They've been so wonderful. So that's my experience.
Okay. You know, let's say about 2 weeks or something?
Yes. I stayed there for 2 weeks, 2 days.
2 days. All right. Okay, let's go to Dr. Vivian Kwahe, who is in charge of Infectious Disease Unit at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital. I recall that we've had you on a number of occasions on Good Morning Nigeria, when the virus broke out initially, and you told us how difficult it was for the those of you who are on the front line to battle the virus at the initial stage? At some point, you said that some of you don't even go home anymore. You are quartered in a particular place because of the necessity, for you to perhaps have the proximity to reach out to the patient, and of course keep away from your family members. And you have just listened to those who have had the experience of a coronavirus. What's your take?
Well, thank you once more for having me. The battle is still on. The challenges are still there. We are still staying in the same facility we have been, away from our homes, to protect our family members, and also to be in close proximity with the patients so that when they call us, we can easily and quickly respond. I really want to congratulate everyone here this morning that has come out to share their story. Dr. Kawu, Mr. Charles, Mr. Abdul, every one of you, a big congratulations to you guys. It's not easy to come out on national television to share your story. I don't know why so many people are shy, about this virus. Like Dr. Kawu said, it is spread by a respiratory droplet. Anybody can get it. I mean, you didn't commit any sin for you to get this virus. It is just there in the community. It's being transmitted in the community. So there is no reason for anyone to be shy about, getting this virus. But all the same, that is the situation we find. People are shy. People don't want to come out. People think it is an evil thing for one to get this virus. So I really want to congratulate you guys for coming out this morning to share your story. I believe many people listening to you will be encouraged also to come out and share their stories so that people out there will know that this thing is real, this virus is real, and anybody can get it. So the cases are just going up. I believe the issue of no, this virus does not exist is contributing to the reason why, more and more people are being infected. You go out there, people are not complying to putting on face masks. They are not complying to social distancing, and then the numbers just keep on rising. I don't know how we are going to break even as far as this virus is concerned. Most of the symptoms they have described, that is what we see. The commonest symptom is that of fever, just like Dr. Kawu said, he had fever. Most people that have this virus, they think it's malaria, and then they treat for malaria, take many anti-malarials, and then after, when they see no improvement, then they begin to think of something else. So the commonest symptom we see out there is fever, and then cough, and difficulty in breathing, headache, loss of taste, loss of smell. Some people even come with diarrhea, and some other rare symptoms that are not so common. So their story is just what we see every day. People come in with these symptoms, and then you have this high index of suspicion that this fever that I've treated for malaria and it's not getting better, most likely it is COVID. They go for COVID test, and then it comes out positive. Just like Mr. Charles said, we're having community transmission. There is no issue of where did you go to, are you coming from abroad? It is in the community, it's being transmitted. Everybody is susceptible to the virus, whether you are rich, whether you are poor, whether you live in the slum, whether you live in a high profile area, everybody is susceptible to this virus. And that is the truth about it, and we just have to deal with it.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Vivian. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Now, let's return to our studios here. Dr. Mohammed Kawu, what we know now is that coronavirus mimics malaria, but it is not malaria. So what did you feel? I'm asking this question so that our people will also know. Sometimes when they say they are treating malaria, and the malaria is not going away, on their own, they say that they now suspect typhoid fever. And then they probably also migrate to treating typhoid. So what is the difference? What was that qualitative difference between the normal fevers that we know and the coronavirus when you started having the symptoms?
Yeah, beside the fever, one very important symptom is loss of smell. most of us lost their smell immediately, and then later on, loss of taste. And there is what we call myalgia, very, very severe pains and feeling of general unwell. So I had cough, but was just mild. But when I go to the center, I think I had chest infection. The chest X-ray also showed I had chest infection. Most probably there was also maybe secondary bacterial infection. So it was tough for me because I had to be on parenteral antibiotics, not tablets. Some people just get it light. I was not on oxygen, but for 3 days I couldn't eat.
Couldn't eat?
Yeah, I couldn't.
So how you had it travel?
I called the doctor, please put IV line for me because maybe I'm a doctor, and they said no, you are still strong. You try to take tea, Lipton tea, ginger tea, and all those things, and they encouraged me. But honestly, for 3 days, if I see the side of food, I feel like vomiting. So it can really be tough. One of my daughters was also infected. She also had it tough. She had pneumonia. She had to be also on parenteral antibiotics. So I can tell you, it can be terrible for some of us. So that's why immediately you start feeling sick, the best is try to get tested. And the earlier you get started on treatment, the better. So these are the issues.
Well, I don't know. For those who still want to live in denial, it is crystal clear now that coronavirus is real and is devastating. Dr. Kawu has been with us on Good Morning Nigeria a number of times before he caught the virus. And now he's back here sharing his experience. That tells you that, look, as a medical personnel, that it is a serious affair. Let's return to Charles once more. Charles, Dr. Kawu just told us about the kind of symptoms that he experienced, during that period. Would like to also share in your own, what kind of symptoms did you have? Of course, you have told us that usually it mimics malaria. It comes like malaria. You have fever, perhaps a dry throat or dry cough, as they call it, and all that. So, what are the peculiarities of your own symptoms? And how did you manage to cope with it? And of course, the medication that you were given.
Well, while a number of the symptoms I had were quite mild, that of sense of smell and the loss of taste, I could regard them as acute because I couldn't even perceive anything, no matter even the fragrance. I couldn't even perceive it, and so not to talk of any other thing that you expect that you are supposed to have a feel of how it smells or even taste. At the time you eat, take even some things that are ordinarily are very, very bitter, yet you don't even feel anything that you are taking anything. And then I had mild cough, not so pronounced, but I know that it was there because every moment you see yourself wanting to clear your throat, because since it's respiratory, there was a tendency that it was about attacking my chest, and then from where it ordinarily would progress through the lungs and then possibly take charge of the respiratory system. And so in which case, if you don't deal with it, the tendency that it becomes acute is there, which is why I believe I was advised to constantly ensure that I take things that are hot, very hot and spicy pepper soup, because that is also good for me, because at least I don't have an issue of ulcer. So the treatment administered to one person, you don't just say because this is what they give him and he became well, and then you just go and self-administer at home, because the person's condition in terms of health may not be the same as yours. And so you don't just say because I said I was given a Zithromas or that I took all the vitamins, and then they'll just copy. The moment you start feeling the symptoms, you just go into your house and then you go and get these drugs. You need to first of all meet a health personnel to advise you on whether there's any pre-existing health condition that may be difficult for you to take the drugs that Mr. A took and then he got well. And so that is the way it was. But beyond that, I also discovered at the time there was this severe pain coming from the back and then You lie down this way, your neck is paining you, you take some drugs. But I believe that the drug that I was administered, particularly the Zitromans and the other quinine, did some work to deal with the issue of those symptoms. But beyond that, the constant taking of immune boosters, these are things that when you have malaria, nobody disturbs you. Before this time, I've never seen vitamin D. I've never seen vitamin D3.
Well, we've just lost the signal at this point where we are beginning to enjoy
what he was talking about. I'm sure
about.
We'll get the connection back, Kieran, so that we have some idea. The pepper soup aspect, whether it was fish pepper soup or goat meat pepper soup.
No, pepper soup is pepper soup. Pepper soup, yeah. A lot of pepper.
Pepper soup, yeah. But again, it's customized. It's not for you to just go and be lapping up pepper soup. It has to be recommended depending on your health condition. It was talking about ulcer, for instance. Exactly. If you have ulcer, why go ahead with pepper soup? That's good to probably bleach
and you mentioned the vitamin D and vitamin D3.
Well, yeah, those are things that some of the health experts have been talking about. But again, it has to be on prescription. Yeah. But Kieran, if the connection to him isn't restored, let's return to Dr. Vivian Kwahe at the Gwagwalada Teaching Hospital. Dr. Kwahe, look, tell us, because some months ago, we are now 5 months into the coronavirus landfall in Nigeria. When coronavirus first came, we were still in the dry season in the country. Now we are in the rainy season. We do know there are a number of infections that are common at this time. Temperatures have dropped in the FCT, common colds and flu. Those are the things that we get at this time, and I'm sure, I mean, your patients, when they present to you with a common cold or the flu, they will also lose their sense of taste or even their sense of smell. So how might people be better advised, now that we're in the rainy season, to say that thing you think is a common cold or the flu is probably more serious than that?
Thank you very much. I want to say that we live in a malaria endemic zone. That is why when people have fever, the first thing they think of is malaria. Like I mentioned earlier on, the commonest symptom of COVID-19 is fever. So most people will have a fever. And once they have a fever, they think it is malaria. And you can't blame them. We are living in a malaria endemic zone. So common things occur commonly. But then, things have been, we are seeing a change because of the pandemic. Not every fever is malaria, so we have to sensitize the population. We have to let people know that not every fever is caused by the malaria parasite, and not every common cold, is a common cold as per se. So right now, once you have a fever or you have cold, we must have a high index of suspicion. Go to the hospital if you have a fever, go to the hospital, or if you have a common cold. It is better for the COVID test to come out negative than for you to stay with COVID at home and be treating malaria or be treating a common cold. So it's no longer like before when you have cold and then you just sit at home and believe that within the next 2 to 3 days, the cold will be over. But now, with the ongoing pandemic, if you have a cold, you have catarrh, you have a headache, you have a fever, you have joint pains, and it's possible that it is just the ordinary common cold. But because of the pandemic, think of COVID-19 and go get a test for COVID-19. If you have a fever, it may be malaria, most likely, but then because of the pandemic, go and get a test for COVID-19. Don't just put the fever under the carpet and say this is malaria. It may not be malaria per se because of what is going on. So what I want to say is that for every symptom, consult your doctor. You have fever, you have persistent headache, kind of headache that is not going. Consult your doctor. It may be COVID-19. Some people have COVID-19 and the only symptom they're experiencing is just this persistent headache. So even headache, as simple as headache is, if you have a persistent headache, consult your doctor. If you have an unexplained diarrhea, you look around, you didn't eat anything that you think may cause a running stomach, consult your doctor. If you have loss of taste, you have loss of smell. I know that the common cold can also give a loss of taste, loss of smell, but now we are dealing with a more deadly virus. So you need to consult your doctor once you have those symptoms. So any symptom at all, because the symptoms of COVID-19 are non-specific. They can mimic any other illness that we know, any common infectious disease that we know. So once you have any symptom, just consult your doctor. It is better for you to get the test and be given a negative bill for COVID-19 than for you to stay with the symptoms and assume that these symptoms are as a result of either malaria or the common cold.
Gentlemen, this is a very serious matter, considering the fact that, as I've said, the temperature has dropped, and there are illnesses that are synonymous with this season, cough, catarrh, and what have you, and which are also some of the symptoms you get when you are coronavirus positive, and that makes everything so complex. And in fact, it's unbelievable. Let us share other aspects of your experience, when you caught the virus, in terms of symptoms and how these symptoms were managed. Because from what we can understand, it does appear that when you have coronavirus, it comes with some symptoms. Those symptoms are actually addressed, separately.
Yes.
Right? And perhaps if you have diarrhea, for instance, they will give you medication for diarrhea.
Yes.
And then if you have a headache, headache will be addressed.
Yes.
and all that. So which means you might be taking different medications to address different symptoms of COVID-19.
Yes.
What's your experience?
Yes, thank you very much. My own experience, one, I had pain, leg pain, especially from here down. And then I became a little bit weak. As a Muslim, I'm supposed to stand up to pray. So I couldn't withstand that again. So, in fact, last week, for the period, for almost 4 weeks, I was sitting down praying or lying down when I was under oxygen on my bed, praying. So I had that. Then I had a little bit cough. This is the first time I'll be having cough, and then you try to bring out something and nothing will come out. So you feel irritated. And then you'll be having some clustered saliva, whitish, just coming once in a while. And then the doctor will tell you, take more water, take fruits, take this, take that. Then I lost my appetite for food. You said 3 days. My own is more than 3 days. I couldn't even eat. But I managed to take fruits. And then I will ask them to give me fruit juice and so fruits. And they encouraged me to take pepper soup. They brought it one time, but I couldn't even. But after some time, I was managing to eat. And then later, I discovered that I don't even have to go close to any cold food. So when they bring my food, I will now ask them to go and microwave it again. That's when the food I will be a little bit fascinated. Then about smell. Me, I perceive smell. I don't have such problem besides the pain. And then before I went to the hospital, in the evening, immediately after the close of around 4 or 5, I discovered, I'll be shivering. I also noticed that, and they gave me drug for all this, for cough, for infection, for pain, for this. For a whole week, nothing happened, no improvement. So I just had to approach the hospital. And now the doctor was saying, see your doctor, see your doctor. If you permit me, I just want to mention something there. I think maybe this is why some people are discouraged. Because I got to National Hospital around 12 in the afternoon. I was not taken until around 9. And in the process, I saw things happening. The delay in even seeing a doctor at a recognized hospital. I think we have to address that. because I've seen some patients even lost their lives in the process of even seeing a doctor. So we have to do that for 3 days. As a journalist myself, I called some of my colleagues who cover PTF that, okay, how can I access NCDC? I want to do COVID-19 test for 3 days. They keep on promising they will come and pick me, that I should stay at home. So I now said, I don't want to just die at home. So I had to come out. So for 3 days. So I think we need to address that, maybe you call it information gap or accessibility. Even when I came out, I said, I want my result. I went to NCDC office. Up till now, I have not been able to get it. So there are so many issues that we really have to address. While I was there, they brought in a cousin of a governor who had an accident and had internal injury at this national hospital. And then behold, while they are doing this and that, before he died, and they said it was COVID-19. These are some of the things that some people tend to doubt it, that is this thing really real? It's only governors that are having it.
But from your experience,
it's real.
It's real, yes.
Yeah.
We can deal with the surrounding issues and the management of emergencies as well as the response time as you talked about. Abdul Rahman, thanks a lot. I want us to, Kirian, let's talk about the sociology of this ailment, because the stigma is important and the way the family also responds. Let's come back again to Dr. Kau. How did members of your family respond to this, even though some of them also tested positive and you are all now negative? How did they respond? Was there a willingness to say, we will submit to the health facility? Because on Good Morning Nigeria, indeed, Kiri and I were on set, we had one of your representatives from your office who was here, and we were discussing one day, and there was a viral video of a certain gentleman who was resisting evacuation to an isolation center. At some point, the health workers were saying, let's get a rope, to tie him, and then get him. There's another video that also went viral of another gentleman, they carried him on all fours, and it was such an ordeal. So let's discuss the sociology of this thing. How did members of your family respond? Was there immediate acceptance, or there was disbelief and then resistance?
Well, probably my case may not be typical, because I'm a doctor. I'm the chairman FCTOC, so they know everything. I've been discussing with them even before we got infected. I always lecture them about this disease, that they shouldn't go out. So they are primed. They have been primed even before then. So immediately I started having fever. I left the house. I left the family.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I had to leave the family.
Where did you go to?
I got a private arrangement.
Okay.
In our system, a health facility system. So before I got tested, before my result came out, and immediately I took my own. I directed that they should all do their tests, and there was no resistance, including my last child, who is just 2 years. So when the result came out, mine came out before theirs. So I was evacuated to treatment center. Immediately theirs came out. I called them and told them, well, some of them had symptoms earlier than mine. So probably the infection started with them, because some of them had malaria, but because they were young, so I think their own was mild. In fact, later on when I probed, my son said he also lost sense of smell, but he didn't tell anybody then. So we now segregated them. Those that were in fact, almost all of them were positive. So what we did was, I took the ones that had bigger, more severe symptoms to the treatment center. Those that had mild symptoms, they were kept in the house, and doctors went, like what happened to the journalists in Delta. They were managed at home. They were given their treatment there. They were being monitored. They were given thermometers to be taking their temperatures, and they were all asymptomatic, actually. So by the time they repeated the test after 2 weeks or so, we were all negative. So But I can tell you, a lot of people are resisting. I had an example. Somebody working in one of the federal presidency, one of the president's pastors. He was sick. He was home. The CEO called my younger brother that they should get in touch with me so that they can test that person. So I said they should send his detail. They sent. I sent it to our public health department. They called the man. He didn't pick. They called the line again. The wife picked and said, no, she rejected it. She will not, the husband doesn't have this. So I reported back to them. They called the chief executive. Before you know it, my brother called me and the man had died. The guy died at home.
After spreading
why they were proclaiming rejection?
Yes, they were proclaiming rejection. The guy was bad. And unfortunately, the guy was obese. So he had some, underlining, probably with that obesity, most likely he also had diabetes. But they didn't come out. Just to do the test, the human rejected. So a lot of people are not willing. And it's sad. A lot of people are dying. And the other time I came here, I told you, so some people die in batches. One gentleman died in Bacha in Area 3. He was the Adhan, the one that calls for prayers. He has been sick. Nobody, he had some respiratory problem. Before you know it, he died. When we took sample post-mortem, he was positive. So a lot of people. But the elites now are becoming, because of what is happening.
Even the governors are coming out. Well, let's return to Charles. Charles, we lost the connection between Delta State there and here. The last time you were talking to us about vitamin D3 and the other medications that were administered to you before you got better. You could also continue with that. But again, we have also graduated into discussing the sociology of this virus with respect to stigmatization, and they would also like to know how members of our family felt when you announced that you were positive, or perhaps friends and well-wishers, how they reacted when you announced positive as a commissioner for information in that state.
That on account of the job I do, which is to sensitize a number of our people, I had cause to have a very regular interface with medical practitioners. To some extent, I stole from their knowledge. And that knowledge I was also able to pass across to members of my family, even if my immediate family is there with you in Abuja. But I was always in constant touch with my wife and my children, to the extent that they can even talk so much about what COVID-19 is, even long before I got infected. And so before I went for the test, I even told my wife that I want to go for the test, and she encouraged me, said, go and do the test, so that to at least as part of the support for the sensitization. And so when it came out and it turned out positive, I also informed her of all the while I was in high spirit. And when they talk about stigmatization, for me, if there's anybody to stigmatize anybody, it's even those who have passed through it that should stigmatize those who don't have it, because at least you know your status. But there is no need for any form of stigmatization. And so it's good for individuals to know their status. It's just unfortunate that the resources are not there to get everybody tested. And over time, the virus was novel at the beginning, in which case it was very, very strange. And in which case everybody thought that you needed treatment centers for everybody that got infected. But from our experience here in Delta, and I want to believe that it's the same across the country, there are the number of persons whose cases are mild tend to be far more than those that have very, very severe and acute cases that will require a ventilator or some of those oxygen tools. And if that being the case, we need to now change our approach, because the cost of running these treatment centers is quite huge. If, for instance, I self-isolated, there are a number of persons, if you are 4 in a house and all of you just live alone, and you are the only one living in the house, then why not the 4 of you turn down your place to the hospital and let them attend to you if the cases are mild, rather than taking them to isolation center where they may not have the other luxuries within their house, because they are in their house and they are not going out to infect other people and nobody is coming into their house. They can afford to still watch their television, eat their food, relax within their compound without having to bring in becoming a danger to anybody. And then that way, the money you are using to buy all the PPEs, because even if it's a mild situation, the moment you take the person to a treatment center, any medical or health personnel that must come in there must wear the personal protective equipment. But at home, even from a distance, a doctor can ask you questions. Those who came to check on me, I was inside from the balcony. I can talk to, okay, how are you feeling? How are you doing this? Why is this? Okay, I hope you're okay. Are you feeling this? Without even having to come close, so that danger of having to infect that person does not exist. But for those whose cases are quite acute, you can take them to the treatment center, and then there you get them treated. As I speak to you, except people are not telling the truth, majority of the individuals who are infected are not in treatment centers across the country. Some of them are now asked to self-isolate. And so if they can self-isolate, even if it's a one-bedroom apartment you have, and in that bedroom you have your kitchen, you have all the food items that they can bring for you, and then you are the one who cook for yourself. So long as you understand the danger of mixing with other people that are not infected, that you can self-isolate, and then they put in a monitoring procedure, rather than evacuating people to a treatment center where the personnel may not be sufficient to now take care of those in treatment center, and you begin to experience what Balogu, my friend, talked about with respect to the National Hospital, to see that maybe the doctors are not attending to you, because also equally challenging. COVID-19 has not suspended other known ailments in the past. Those doctors have not increased in number, but these ailments existed, and COVID-19 is coming to pose another challenge. So you see that most of these health personnel are also involved in those other ailments that they have always been used to before. So when they are attending to some other person that are also suffering some other ailments, and you think that they may not have enough time to have attended to you, it is because they are also done with dealing with a lot of other issues. And don't forget, because of COVID-19, a number of doctors at a time are taken out of the circle. After about 14 days, maybe you ask them before they can go back to meet their family members. At that moment, they cannot treat any other person. They are not available to attend to COVID-19. So you have a depletion of the number of health personnel. And that is why I think that this issue of treating at home is very, very important and vital for us to be able to at least put through.
Thank you very much there for your perspective. Indeed, Kirian, if you recall, and Dr. Kau was also with us in the early days, we kept saying that part of the challenge of community transmission will be when health facilities are overwhelmed on account of a surge in the number of infections. Because as Charles just indicated, there are persons, who have all kinds of ailments that hospitals have been dealing with, and those ailments will continue to be there. Plus now, coronavirus, and then you have the kind of delays that we're having. But Charles, let me also ask you this question. I mean, you're not the only top-ranking official of Delta who has been infected and who has survived. And once again, congratulations. Your governor, that's Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa himself, a medical doctor, his wife and his daughter were also infected, along with the secretary of the state government, I believe. What now is the attitude of Deltans to the existence of this virus?
Well, maybe those of us in the government, particularly at the ESCO level, contracting it somehow became also a blessing in disguise, because the idea of saying that it's a scam has reduced. The question is, even when I got, because I and the SAG were the first to be announced, and some of my friends, even very educated friends, were asking me, bros, how much did they pay you? And I asked one of them, if you know me before now, how much do you think somebody will pay me? You must be talking in the billions, because I don't see the kind of millions you want to bring for me to accept that I have coronavirus. And the question is, who is the one paying the money? States are losing so much money, which is what we have also made people to understand, that on account of the lockdown, the National Bureau of Statistics has made it clear that over 65% of the revenue that accrues to the country is no more coming in. And this revenue is usually managed by the president and the governors. And if the people who are to manage this revenue when it's coming in droves are now the one that have shut down the economy because they want to save the life of Nigerians and those in their states, how do you now think that they will benefit more by locking down the economy? And so that was one thing that I didn't understand where it was coming from, when individuals thought that there is the issue of scam. we have been able to now use our own experience to let them know. Even at the initial time, they were saying no, that I was being used as a guinea pig, to make people believe that the thing existed. But beyond that, if you allow me, the trust deficit that have always existed between government and the governed has also been a major challenge. Because over time, in the past, and even up to the present day, there are a number of persons in government, which thank God is not the case in Delta, where you promise A and you don't even do, you go ahead to do C. And so the people continue to see those in government as people who will make a promise and not keep to it. And so whenever government comes up with something, they say, no, they are at it again. This is another government magic. And so when coronavirus came, that trust deficit now came in to play that role. In addition to the fact that there is the pull and the push factor. The people want to feed. Majority of our people depend on daily work for them to feed the next day. And so when you ask them to go and self-isolate, don't do this, and lock up your shop, the question is, what are they going to eat? The urge for them to go and look for what to eat makes them to throng the marketplaces, make them to go to their workplaces without comfortably observing those protocols that we have talked about. And so it's a major challenge that even when they believe that it exists, the need not to be killed by hunger makes them to reduce the potency of in their thinking of a COVID-19. So as a government, even here in Delta, we are now trying as much as possible to balance it up in terms of continuously creating jobs and opportunities for our people to also earn their living. Because if they remain in hunger, if you like, go and bring all the sensitization, they will not stay at home, because they will tell you that hunger virus is worse than coronavirus. And as such, when you talk about those protocols, it enters one ear and it does not even get to the end of the other ear, let alone even falling out. So the most important thing is that it's a holistic approach. While we sensitize, this approach of meeting up people halfway is also equally important.
All right, Charles, thank you very much indeed. In fact, you have re-educated some of us here with your analysis of this very issue, because as a government official, you have a role to play in sensitizing the people, and you understand really what the message is. And what you have said is not out of context at all, because the stomach virus could be as dangerous as the pandemic itself. Thank you very much indeed. We want to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue with this conversation. Don't go away. This is Good Morning Nigeria.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
She cried. She cried in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry meant nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she is left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their bestiality. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
We have observed the lockdown. We have practiced the measures in order to curb the spread of the virus, but we can do better. The coronavirus spread is increasing daily, and only together can we cut down the numbers and defeat the spread of the virus. Remember, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, and a recovered patient cannot spread the disease. Do not stigmatize. Do not hesitate to report any case, or if you have come in contact with anybody that has been infected with COVID-19. If you have cough and fever, please stay at home and call your state hotline. Find state numbers at www.covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Remember, it is for your own good and for the good of every Nigerian. Let us do better and defeat the virus. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on Africa's largest television network. We're broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. Let's bring in, once again, Abdulrahman Balogun, who is head of PR and media relations at the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. Balogun, we've gotten the experience of at least two of our guests, Charles Vasquez from Asaba, Dr. Kawu here with us in the studios, in terms now of the sociology of coronavirus. How did your immediate family members respond to this? How did your friends also respond to it? How did your colleagues at work respond to it once it became clear that you were down and now happily out?
Thank you very much. Luckily for me, I have luckily with enlightened family, and then I'm in a unit where we educate people, especially our diaspora. This issue came from one, and in January when it happened, I was the one telling our students there. We are 65 students in China then. We have all this information since January when we don't even have any case yet. So we've been briefed, and we know some of these issues, so we've been telling them. And then when this thing happened, luckily for me, I live alone here. My family, they live in Ibadan. So despite that, I told them to go, and 15 of them went for tests, and luckily they are all negative. So no issue, so they understand it perfectly. But for friends and colleagues, it's on Sunday you spotlighted me on a news line, my hospital ordeal and all the rest, and it was true that some people got to know, and they call, Balogun, so you have COVID? So you have COVID? When I saw that in your mouth, so people are so scared. I said, is COVID a death sentence? Even a colleague in office said, okay. I think this one that you have gone to expose yourself, they will come and quarantine all of us here. This and that and that and that. And I have at my own office alone. I live alone. In my car, I don't carry anybody. So I really don't know how the thing came about. So this stigma is still very, very, very there. And we really need to work on it. So my family, no issue at all. But we still have so as at yesterday, a friend called and said, between us, I have this thing. My daughter has it, and my wife. But me, I don't want to go to isolation center because I hear all the kind of story they do there. Before you get in there, they strip you naked, and then you just be there. I can't afford that they strip my wife naked because of COVID-19. I would rather be treating myself here. So I advised him, and I don't know, maybe later today now, I'm sure I told him to watch this program. Maybe you have a change of heart, and decided to go to the isolation center. I just want to correct an impression. I didn't say I was not properly treated by doctors at National Hospital. I was only talking about the response to, before meeting the doctor, the response, and NCDC, all these are number that they normally put out that, okay, if you have this, call this number. No response for 3 days. Even at Federal Secretariat Hospital, because that was where I first contacted. I went there. They told me the only doctor there was sick after waiting for 4 hours before now proceeding to National Hospital. So I think we need to address this issue. I know we have some shortages and But the stigma is there. We really need to work on the
And there is no need for the stigma.
There's no need for it. It's just we need to educate people.
Because you don't have to commit a sin to get coronavirus.
Absolutely.
It's unlike other viruses such as HIV. Because
it's now airborne, and like doctor used to tell us, it's airborne. You can also get it through droplet and all the rest. So.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that information. And it's time for us to go back to Dr. Vivian Kwahe, who has been managing coronavirus patients since the virus touched down in Nigeria. Dr. Vivian, there seems not to be a particular treatment protocol that can be said to be synonymous with coronavirus because of its unpredictable biological behaviors that it exhibits in different persons. So I wonder how some of you who are on the front line are managing this virus, and the individuals involved. Can we have a clue, of the kind of medical protocol that you are using most of the time? Because honestly, Nigerians are also having survivals. People are still surviving. People who have been talking to this morning, they all survived the coronavirus. So, as he rightly said, it's not a death sentence. So, fill us in with what practically you do, in terms of medication to save as many Nigerians that are being saved at the moment.
Thank you again. I will start by saying that coronavirus has no specific treatment, like we all know, and majority of cases will recover without any intervention. I want to say that over 80% of people who have coronavirus have mild disease. Either they're asymptomatic or they have a mild disease. Only 20% of the people that have coronavirus have moderate to severe disease. And coronavirus is caused by a virus. Viral infections, most of the time, are self-limiting. You can a viral infection. So most people that have coronavirus will recover even without any medication at all. They will recover. The immune system has a way of handling the infection, and overcoming the infection. So most people will recover without any intervention. So our focus is on the 20% that come down with moderate to severe disease. That is where the issue lies. And usually these are people that are either elderly or have one form of comorbidity. They have an underlying infection or underlying disease. These are the people that will come down with moderate to severe disease, and these are the people that require, proper, or let me say, medical attention, because you have to manage the coronavirus itself, and you also have to manage the comorbidity as well. Now, in the management of the coronavirus, we all know that for now, there is no specific treatment. We have a drug called remdesivir, which is in the market right now, but it's very expensive, and most people cannot afford. So there are very few people in the country that are using this particular drug. So most people rely on management of the symptoms. Now, if we look at the pathophysiology of the disease, there is something called microthrombi. Okay, there is thrombosis that occurs at the level of the vessels. And it is believed that most people that die from coronavirus die as a result of this thrombi that are formed in the blood vessels. So in the management of coronavirus, particularly when we are managing those that have severe disease, we take care of that. Okay, we give medications that prevent the formation of thrombosis. Another thing also that we focus on is the management of the cytokine storm. There is something called the cytokine storm, where the body reacts, in an exaggerated way to the virus. And this exaggerated response of the body to the virus is what leads to the, severity of the disease that we see. So we also try to handle that by giving medications that sort of, ameliorate this response to the virus. Okay, we use steroids that soften the body's response to this virus. So the management protocol is that of a symptomatic management. Okay, we take care of, we manage formation of thrombosis, we reduce the inflammation, we manage other comorbidities, patients that have diabetes. You realize that the sugar goes up, you have to control that one, because if the coronavirus does not kill the patient, the high blood sugar can kill the patient. You also take care of that. We also give antibiotics, because some of them come down with superimposed bacterial infection that can also kill the patient. So you give antibiotics to manage the patient. So it's a whole lot of gamut, you understand? I cannot tell you that this is the one particular drug that you give for a patient who has coronavirus. Like somebody mentioned earlier on, the treatment is individualized. You look at the patient in front of you. What is this patient at risk of? What is this patient, manifesting? Or what are the things that can lead to mortality in this patient? And then you tackle those things one after the other. So basically, we are still using hydroxychloroquine. We still use them, even though there are a lot of studies that are for hydroxychloroquine, against hydroxychloroquine. In my center, we are still using hydroxychloroquine. We are still using azithromycin, because they have been shown to have antiviral effect. We use zinc. We use vitamin D. These are molecules that boost the immune system and have been shown to have some antiviral viral properties. By and large, I wouldn't want to say that there is one particular treatment that fits one shoe that fits everybody, or one cap that fits everybody. The treatment is individualized. It depends on the patient in front of me. It depends on the symptoms the patient is having, and it depends on the risk factors or the complications that I think that this patient may develop. There are patients that come with acute kidney injury.
I just wondering, Dr. Vivian Kwale, thank you so very much, Kirian.
Yeah.
Anybody listening to Dr. Vivian and indeed the other guests this morning, you can see the cocktail of ailments, medical terms and issues that she has highlighted. Yes. Thrombosis, kidney issues and all kinds of things, and what processes and procedures that the medical personnel would need to adopt. So you cannot self-medicate on this issue. That's the clearest message from what they are saying. And the specific regimen for one individual may not apply to another person. I mean, Charles told us earlier that, look, and that's common knowledge, by the way, you can't be taking pepper soup when you have ulcer.
And at the point, she also said that some persons could recover without taking any medication.
Absolutely, that's right.
Depending on your immune system.
Depending on your immune system. I just wanted Dr. Vivian to respond to this as briefly as she possibly can in the circumstance. I hope I'm quoting you correctly. When we had you in one of our editions, you did say that, yes, coronavirus is not a death sentence, but coronavirus in certain circumstances could be an accelerator of death. And those circumstances relate to comorbidities, which is what we've talked about. Now, we have been hearing reports, and a doctor, I'm sure there are persons who are close to you. I have heard of persons who have just dropped dead suddenly. Oh, they said the person didn't have any signs or symptoms. He just got up, ordered for a cup of tea, and then the next thing, the person went off. Oh, the person was sick for only a couple of days. They took him or her to the hospital, and then the next thing, they say it's coronavirus, and the person is gone. What's happening?
Okay. Comorbidities are underlying diseases that people have, and they have been managing. They are living with these comorbidities. Now, when they have coronavirus, there is an accelerated response, okay, to this coronavirus. Now, I mentioned something earlier on about the cytokine storm. This is something that can happen, that can change overnight. You see somebody that has coronavirus is you hear that person has died. Is as a result of the accelerated response. The body response, becomes exaggerated, and then things just begin to, progress in a very fast rate, and then the person dies suddenly. So it's not surprising we have in patients that have coronavirus.
Well, we're beginning to have glitches along the line of communication with Dr. Vivian, who has been very wonderful this morning with the analysis that she has given against the backdrop of coronavirus and how to tackle the pandemic medically. We have some tweets here,
That's right,
and
yes.
let's see if we can take a few of them. But before that, there's one statement made by Anthony Fauci, the American head of disease control unit, that look, the only remedy for coronavirus globally is vaccine. He said if there's no vaccine, then this is going to last for a longer time globally. And of course, we are learning that between now and September, that Russia and Britain will be coming up with a vaccine. That could, of course, assist.
Well, let's see how it goes. I mean, the vaccine, of course, will help prevent. In the meantime, what do? Personal responsibility,
exactly.
Avoiding crowded places, wearing the face mask, and allowing people to take the responsibility that they need to take. Kira, let's take the tweets as you said earlier. Innocent Yawa James, victory against COVID-19 is far-fetched as the rise in daily cases, as the rise is still worrisome. Now, no vaccine, no certified drugs yet against the corona. What then calls for victory, except there is something we don't know? Nobody is saying victory yet, by the way.
Utola Sunday, it's so sad that many people still do not believe COVID-19 exists. If not, why are they not adhering to the guidelines, especially in my state, Benue? If you go to the markets, motor parks, and worship centers, you hardly see people putting on their face masks. Very dangerous.
Absolutely. Law Alpha says it's not yet Uhuru, as new confirmed cases are on the rise daily, and many Nigerians do not behave as if anything is happening in their domain because they flout preventive measures with reckless abandon.
Titus Monday says, even as some successes are being attained, it's sad to be hearing of COVID-19 protocol breaches at the airport, especially by top political and government officials. We obey foreign laws religiously and despite ours with much passion and dexterity.
Victory over COVID-19 will come from full compliance with protocols.
Well, Alabaju says Dr. Mohammed Kau, a good friend, and AG Sec to Health in FCT as a good example. He knew what it took to surreptitiously be in the lion's den, waiting whether the lion will arrive or disappear finally. His story taught us that we can come out alive if diagnosed positive. So this must be your friend, Dr. Kau.
Ele Jack Solomon. Now, in the success story of survivors, we have seen medical practitioners and those who tested positive and healed. They have used their platform to help to demystify the myths surrounding COVID-19. Those who test positive can collectively support those who are fighting to live.
Yeah, Jani or Latunde, for me, the takeaway from COVID-19 is the need for Nigerian government to build trust in its citizens and invest massively in a national database management.
Osman Banu Kanto said, to be candid, many people believe that the pandemic exists only with Oyibo people. So victory or no victory, only governors can attest. Now, this is wrong. This is wrong. I'm sure if you've been listening to the comments from our guests, all our 4 guests this morning, Charles Aniago, Dr. Vivian, Balogun here, and Dr. Kau.
The story is very clear.
It's real. It's real. I mean, none of them is Oyibo, and there they have it, yes.
The success stories are highly commendable, but we still have more cases in hand, and also many ignoring preventive protocols. This careless behavior may frustrate all the current gains.
Well, Adamu Garba, Festus Akimboyewa, and Mutana Farouk, they have also sent in their tweets.
Yes, and at this point, Kingsley, we have to appreciate our guests.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I know that we are really pressed for time now. You've tested negative, you've been discharged, and now you are free. How do you feel? Very briefly. How do you feel?
Feel okay. Feel comfortable. Feel normal.
You feel all right.
All right.
So you can listen to James Brown.
Yeah.
All right, Charles Aniago, you can also listen to James Brown. You feel all right. One time. Come on.
That's Makusa.
Gentlemen, ladies, thank you indeed, everyone here. Dr. Mohammed Kau, Acting Secretary FCT Health and Human Services Secretariat. Thank you indeed for coming, and of course, congratulations once more. And of course, Abdurrahman Balogu, Head Media, Public Relations and the Protocol Unit, Nigerians in Diaspora. It's been a pleasure hosting you, and I'm happy that you are well now. Thank you indeed. Charles Santiago, my friend, the Commissioner for Information Data, stated it's a pleasure hosting you this morning, and I'm glad that you are smiling, and your family in Abuja will also be smiling with you. You are back to life again. Thank you for coming. And of course, our indefatigable Dr. Vivian Kwahe, who started this program with us when we started the series of the program on